Yes, what is up everyone? It is you, it is me, it is Friday, which means it's time for previews and predictions. And we're gonna start with Manchester United versus the Arsenal, because it is the last time that we will ever get to see Jose Mourinho versus Arsene Wenger, and that makes me kind of sad. Unless, of course, this was all an elaborate ruse and Wenger pops up with another club next season. And I'm looking at you, PSG. But enough of the sad last time stuff, because this is the first time that we will see Henrik Mkhitaryan and Alexis Sanchez take on their former clubs, and that makes me happy. Because if Sanchez was as much of a problem in the locker room as was being reported, then I expect to see, if I was an Arsenal defender, which I'm not, but if I was, they'd probably be doing a lot better. But also, I think because you're going to see someone get a good tackle on him just as a, hey, I know it's not all your fault, but you didn't help this season, so thanks for f***ing it up. So honestly, I'm not joking here. Watch the body language between him and the Arsenal players during this game, because I think it'll be pretty obvious if there was any animosity between them. And speaking of Alexis, outside of a good game here or there, I feel like he's been pretty bang average since joining United, which might have to do more with Mourinho's tactics than anything Sanchez is doing. But regardless, I fully expect him to be up for this, and the same with Mkhitaryan, who I'm sure would love to stick it to the special one with a man-of-the-match performance in front of his old supporters at Old Trafford. So my prediction, well, last season when it was almost certain United wouldn't make it into the top four, Mourinho turned all of his attention to the Europa League, and in the midst of that, United visited the Emirates and lost, which allowed Wenger to grab his first competitive victory over his nemesis. But this time the tables have turned, and Arsenal's only hope of the Champions League next season is winning the Europa League this season, which is where their focus, rightfully, has been for about a month now, and because of that, I think United is going to take advantage and win 3-1, even though I think deep down, Jose is going to want his team to keep pushing and scoring as many goals as possible so that he can humiliate the specialist in failure one last time. And up next, it's two for the price of one: Inter Milan versus Juventus and Fiorentina versus Napoli. Because things are getting down to the nitty-gritty in Italy due to Napoli's big 1-0 win over Juventus in Turin last week, which cut Juve's lead to 1 point at the top, which means it's going to come down to who will handle the pressure and who will be the Spurs of Serie A. So please put a picture of a bottle next to my head right now, if you don't mind. Thanks. And even though these away games will obviously be tough for both clubs, I think Juve's is a little bit tougher because, one, Juve's form isn't good at the moment. I mean, they failed to register a single shot on target in a game at home for the first time since they moved into their new stadium, and they drew away from home to Crotone the week before that. That's just not a good look. Two, Inter are only 1 point away from getting into the top four, and I'm pretty sure their new manager, Luciano Spalletti, is going to do everything in his power to make sure Inter finish above the club he left last season, Roma, to take this job. And exactly 20 years ago, Juventus grabbed a famous victory over Inter in what is still referred to as the Great Theft. So I 100% believe Inter will be properly motivated for this one. And three, for more context about the Great Theft, because it's good and highly dramatic, Inter were denied a blatant penalty when a Juve defender body-checked Inter's Ronaldo, the OG Ronaldo, in the box, and it didn't get called, and then Juve held on for the 1-0 victory, which ended Inter's title hopes. In fact, the case about whether the referee was cheating got so serious, it reached the Italian parliament, and politicians had to be held back from fighting each other. I mean, how rad is that? Anyway, my head says Juve will grind out a 1-1 draw, but my heart says Inter will win this 1-0, but either of those two results would open up the door for Napoli to regain the lead. Unfortunately for Napoli, though, they have to face their nemesis in Fiorentina manager Stefano Pioli, who, get this, beat Napoli with Lazio 4-2 on the final day of the 2014-2015 season, which got Lazio into the Champions League and knocked Napoli out of it. And then he was also in charge of the Chievo side that completed a surprisingly double over Napoli in the 2010-2011 season. And then, just this season, Fiorentina held Napoli to a goalless draw when they first met in December. And remember, that was at a time when Napoli was one of the highest scoring teams in all of Europe. So if I'm a Napoli supporter, I would be pretty worried about this fixture. However, Napoli know that they're on the brink of achieving history and knocking Juve off of their perch at the top, and they have a ton of momentum, and yes, momentum is a real thing, and I think that's going to be enough for them to squeak out a 2-1 win. And here's some other games I'll be keeping my eyes on this weekend. like Deportivo La Coruña versus Barcelona, because Clarence Seedorf's Deport are in 18th place, a full 9 points behind 17th place Levante, so they need to win the remaining 4 games and get a lot of luck. And who better to start that winning streak against than Barcelona, who just need 1 point to be crowned champions of Spain, which means if that happens, Real Madrid, who Barca play next week at the Camp Nou, would have to do a guard of honor for their biggest rivals, unless they decline, which their manager has said they would potentially do, and I don't think that's very cool of them at all, actually. But it's going to make for some awesome drama ahead of another El Clasico, so sorry, Depor, you're not winning jack shit this weekend, because Barcelona is going to make sure that Madrid honors them. And then I'll be spying on Monaco, Lyon, and Marseille in France, because 2 of these 3 teams are going to make the Champions League next season, while the other one is going to have to settle for the Europa League. And also, as a fun fact for you, only 1 point separates all 3 of them. Now, Monaco, who are in second, host Amiens. I think I said that right, Amiens, which should be an easy 3 points on paper, but Monaco have lost their last 2 games, so maybe it won't be. I don't know. And then Lyon hosts Nantes. Definitely said that one right, which should be an easy 3 points as well, especially since they've won 6 straight league games on the back of Memphis Depay, who has 6 goals and 5 assists in those 6 games. What a stud. And then there's Marseille, who traveled to Angers. But with their big 2-0 win over RB Salzburg in the first leg of the Europa League semifinals, you know they're going to be feeling good, so I expect Marseille, and frankly all 3 of these teams, to win unless they don't. Dun dun dun! That was more aggressive, I think, than suspenseful. Dun dun dun! Maybe not aggressive enough. And then I'll be focused on Porto and Benfica in Portugal, because Porto are on top of the league by 2 points over reigning champions Benfica, and there are only 3 games left to go. So any slip-ups for either club could decide the title. Now, Porto traveled to Marítimo, who are 6th in the table, but Marítimo are winless in their last 3, so it's hard to say which version of their team is going to show up. But I expect it to be a tense 90 minutes, while Benfica hosts Tondela, which should be good shooting practice for the league's top scorer, Jonas, who has 33 goals in 31 games for Benfica this season. That is... So for me, the pressure is really on Porto this weekend to do the business. So we'll see if they do. My name is Jonas. I'm carrying the world. And then I'll be keeping these things on NYCFC versus FC Dallas, because these clubs have played a combined 14 games in MLS this season and have only lost once. And that was last weekend when NYCFC decided to take a day off from capitalizing on their 75% possession in their 3-0 loss to the Portland Timbers, which coincidentally was around the same time that Patrick Vieira, their manager, was being linked to the Arsenal job. So maybe there's something there. Maybe he's a little distracted. Now, he says no, but you never know. So it'll be interesting to see how they play against an FC Dallas team this weekend, who have only given up 3 goals all season and are undefeated. And then I'll be peeping Schalke versus Borussia Mönchengladbach, because Schalke need a victory to secure a spot in the top 4 of the Bundesliga, and with them having beat Gladbach 13 out of their last 17 games at home, I think they're going to do it. Also, we should all keep an eye on the bottom end of the table, because bottom feeders FC Cologne, who are on 22 points, face Freiburg, who sit in the relegation playoff spot on 30 points. And then Hamburg, the other relegation zoner with 25 points, travel to Wolfsburg, who also have 30 points. So talk about pressure. All 4 of these teams are going to be feeling it in these must-win games. And then in a rematch of the Apertura Finals and Liga MX last year between Tigres and Monterrey, which Tigres won at Monterrey Stadium in leg 2 of that final. And remember, these 2 share a city, so the dislike between them is quite strong. Currently in 3rd place, Monterrey traveled to currently in 4th place Tigres to get some revenge. And given Tigres' recent form, they've only got 1 win in their last 5, I think Monterrey is going to get it done. And finally, we head to Turkey for perhaps the hottest title race in all of Europe, because with 4 games left to play, the top 4 teams are separated by just 3 points. But it's Galatasaray who are on top, and for them to stay there, they're going to need to beat Besiktas, who are in 2nd in this week's massive derby. I said it 3 times because it's that massive, so you should definitely make time for this one. And all right, that is it, but before you go, I got 2 things for you. One, I might honestly be about to take the most epic trip of my life. First, I'm headed to do something with Lothar Matthäus in Munich on Monday. Have you heard of the guy? He's only played in 5 World Cups, so you should have heard of him. Then, I'm heading to Madrid on Tuesday for the 2nd leg of Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid. Yeah, I know, that's amazing. Then I'm heading to Rome for the second leg of Liverpool-Roma. Yeah, I know, that's amazing. Then I'm heading back to Madrid for the second leg of Arsenal versus Atletico Madrid. I mean, how insane is that? It's pretty insane, and I'm pretty jealous of myself. Also, I'll be vlogging all of it, so be on the lookout for those videos. And 2, pick the right score for Manchester United versus Arsenal, and you'll be entered to win some Warm Ballers gear. And okay, now you're free to go. So have a good or bad weekend, everyone. Later.